The truth about casinos and the psychological stages of gamblers. It is said that gambling should only be viewed as a form of entertainment and must never be done excessively. Because if you play a lot, you still cannot win. You cannot beat the casino because they already take a percentage of profit from every game. Simply put, which type of game has the lowest house edge? In fact, even Baccarat charges you about 5% per game. If you play 40 rounds without winning or losing, just breaking even, you still lose money. The bigger the players, the more money they lose. As for me, I neither teach nor burn money on gambling. What you just heard comes from Hong San, the king of Macau's casinos. He is a billionaire businessman, founder and chairman of SJM Holdings, a company owning 19 casinos in Macau. The path to prosperity welcomes you. Do you want to know how skillful Hong San is to deserve the real title king of casinos? The answer to this question is also his motto: if you don't gamble, you win. Regarding gambling, Hong San holds that not gambling means not losing. Not only does he himself not gamble, but even his family is forbidden from participating in gambling. He understands the rule clearly: out of 10 gambles, only 1 time will you win. In a television interview, he frankly said, "I always sincerely advise everyone to see gambling only as entertainment, not to play too much, because if you play a lot, you may not win, but the house always takes the commission." I have said this, but people do not listen. Even if you play 40 rounds, you will still lose money. He also admits that no matter how rich you are, you cannot compete against the casino. The gambling industry has a little-known secret. They do not fear players winning, but fear they stop coming to play. Casinos know that if players keep playing, eventually they will lose everything. So why do players keep playing? Is it because of insanity, being drugged, or gambling addiction? Gambling obsession is a natural human weakness, especially among Eastern people. Among the 3 biggest vices, gambling, prostitution, and drugs, gambling has the most destructive impact on families. Although drug addiction is very harmful even for billionaires, even if they are addicted, at current drug prices they might not wipe out their assets. But once trapped in the whirlpool of gambling, whether they have millions or billions of dollars, they can still lose everything because of debt. Remember, whether online or offline gambling, the destructive power is equal. Some people, when they lose all their money, leave, meaning they still keep some discipline. But cases where people lose and then borrow money to continue gambling are not rare. Why does this happen? I have some real experiences about gambling that might make everyone think a little. The first case is probably no one suffers from gambling as much as Lemin. He completely lost everyone's trust. Lemin never thought he would fall into such a situation. In 2011, he got involved in football betting. The first time he bet 10 million on a match and unexpectedly won 80 million. The scariest thing about gamblers is their lack of awareness about value and denial of labor value. In less than 3 months, Lemin won over 1 billion, while his invested capital was only about 200 million. Even working hard for a whole year, he could hardly earn more than 100 million, but in a short time, he earned a huge amount. Lemin decided to quit his stable position at a large construction company to focus on football betting, which marked the beginning of his financial collapse. All plans and loss-cutting measures were thrown away when he lost bets, because at that time he just wanted to quickly recover his money, but that was a pitiful illusion of an addicted gambler. Finally, just 3 months after winning over 1 billion, Lemin fell completely bankrupt. At this point, he lost interest in everything, even job hunting. Despite many job offers, he refused to work, even when paying for food, electricity, and living expenses became increasingly difficult. The scariest thing is that Lemin completely denied the value of labor. He lost more than 3 billion, over 2 billion of which was borrowed from his parents and banks. The huge debt and his desire to recover lost money drove him mad and self-destructive. He began borrowing from high-interest loan companies with a terrifying rate of up to 3% per month. In less than half a year, Lemin lost everything. By then, his credit cards could no longer cover the financial holes. Banks were overdue on payments by more than 6 months and were preparing to sue him. At this point, Lemin had to pay over 200 million per month, including more than 70 million in interest alone. If at that time he had confided in his family, sought help from friends to borrow and repay debts, and quit gambling, he would still have a chance to rebuild his life. But no, Le Min hid this from his parents and sold a 130 square meter house. After paying off debts, he only had 200 million left. Next, Le Min hid in a hotel for about a month. He turned off all communication devices and continued gambling. In his mind, he thought he must win at least 2 billion to buy a small house and start over. A month passed, and he only had 100 million left. At this point, he planned to escape because he felt he could no longer face his parents. He wrote a letter and transferred the remaining 100 million to his mother. Trembling and fearful, he went to the top floor of the hotel to face his fate. Le Min despised himself because while gambling he feared nothing, but now he was scared. On the night he decided to drink for courage, his parents found his whereabouts through the booking information. Returning home, Le Min lay in bed for 2 months, doing nothing. His family did not blame him much. About a year after the tragedy, real estate prices increased by more than 3 billion. Le Min's parents, who had worked hard their whole lives to save money to buy a house for him, now had to bear severe consequences just because of their son. In just 2 or 3 short years, a well-off family fell into hardship. After 6 months of dullness, Le Min finally decided to quit gambling and rebuild his life. But years of lack of value awareness made it hard for him to start anew. He lived with his parents in the countryside for 6 months, doing a job that paid less than 10 million per month. The large gap from his previous lifestyle, along with peer pressure, made Le Min think quitting was the better choice. He felt like a complete failure. At that time, Le Min was 30 years old, homeless, with only an old motorbike, completely broke because of gambling. His marriage finally broke up. After 14 years, he neglected work, spent days only gambling and thinking about suicide. Then one day, his father came to his room and said, "Son, come back to the old city and start over. Find a small job and gradually everything will be fine. We will fully support you. Don't dwell on the past. We have agreed to use our retirement and rental income to help you buy a small 70 square meter apartment." Finally, Le Min decided to quit gambling and rebuild his life. He knew that if he still had money, he wouldn't control himself and would fall back into gambling. So each month when he got his salary, he immediately transferred it to his mother for safekeeping and only asked for 300,000 per day for living expenses. Besides, he canceled all his credit cards. Currently, Le Min has been clean from gambling for 14 months. Although his savings only allow him to watch an English Premier League match or buy a room as small as a toilet bowl in this big city, he still can talk to his parents with peace of mind, buy them small gifts, confidently look in the mirror and face himself. Hopefully, in the rest of his life, Le Min can atone for all his mistakes. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to follow the channel to learn more truths about money and help you quickly achieve financial freedom. The second case is about my older brother, who once emigrated to Macau and worked in casinos for many years. So he has enough knowledge to answer why many people, though fully aware that gambling can destroy families and lives, still fall into it. It is due to human nature. Humans always carry greed. Workers always want to earn more money. Lovers always want to receive more affection from their partner. People striving to improve always want higher perfection. Even those satisfied with a normal life desire a life without setbacks. In fact, everyone has greed. My brother has met many gamblers. They possess assets that ordinary people dare not dream of. One night of their gambling loss could equal the lifetime savings of ordinary people. Some bosses even prefer to gamble their money away rather than pay employees whose salaries have been delayed for months. The real customers of casinos are not the small-time gamblers, but those at the top of the food chain, holding the lives of ordinary workers in their hands. My brother once shared some examples of his clients to help you understand the true nature of gamblers more deeply. First, the risk-taking gambler. The case my brother encountered was a young heir only 30 years old. Each month, he would visit Macau once, bringing along around 5 to 10 billion. At first, he would bet 1 to 1.5 billion in one go. If he won, he would continue betting the same amount. When on a roll, he would immediately bet 3 billion. If only a few billion remained, he wouldn't hesitate to wager at all. The whole session usually lasted no more than 20 minutes. Either he would win 10 to 15 billion or lose everything. For him, gambling was just about the thrill. What mattered wasn't the money won, but the exhilarating feeling when his heart raced, and the overwhelming joy upon finally achieving what he desired. That moment of victory made him feel as if the world was on his side, favored by heaven itself. How many times does a person get to experience such a feeling? Simply put, the future is unknown to anyone, but when fortune strikes, people feel like they hold the future in their hands and everything goes their way. Yet, casinos do not fear customers like him. You can win 100 times, but a single loss will wipe out all capital and profits. People like him will never admit defeat. He may be very successful in business, but at the casino, he will ultimately be a loser. Second, the dependent gambler. This story is about a rural businessman, about 50 years old. Whenever he visited, he usually brought 7 billion. Each game, he only bet a few tens of millions. If he won, he used the winnings to bet again. His strategy was very steady, neither hasty nor reckless. He could win 1 to 3 billion each time. There was a period when he won consistently for months, sometimes a few 100 million, sometimes 3 billion, almost never losing. However, once his principal lost over 200 million, he transformed completely. He became extremely impatient and impulsive, betting hundreds of millions in a single play. Once he recovered his principal, he returned to smaller bets. One time, after losing several rounds consecutively, it was the first time my brother saw him lose control. He started betting billions but lost again, then bet all his remaining money. Ultimately, he lost everything. Afterwards, he mortgaged personal assets to continue gambling. In just 1 week, he lost over 70 billion. He once said that in Macau's casinos, as long as you're not too greedy, you can win big. But on reflection, his company's yearly profit was only about 10 to 15 billion, yet gambling for 1 week in Macau could earn him as much as a year's hard work. The terrifying thing about gambling is how it easily makes you think all your previous efforts are worthless, falling into illusions. This causes you to lose motivation to earn money through honest labor. At the same time, it makes you want to escape from this world. Even the most professional gamblers cannot earn sustainable profits. If you want to get rich from gambling, the only way is to run the casino itself and reap long-term profits. Third, the hollow gambler. This is a story about 2 men, whom I'll call Mr. C and Mr. D. Both were high rollers, each owning personal assets worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But unbelievably, they spent more than 20 days a month gambling in Macau. To stay long-term, they didn't hesitate to switch their passports to the Philippines. Mr. C often played at MGM. He could sit in front of a machine for 12 hours straight without getting bored, even eating right there. Meanwhile, Mr. D loved baccarat and spent much time at the gambling table. Winning didn't bring him much joy, and losing didn't bother him much either. Once, Mr. C told Mr. D, "Slot machines are truly bottomless pits. No matter how much money you put in, it's never enough." Mr. D asked, "If you know that, why do you keep playing?" C replied, "Because aside from this, I have no interest in anything else anymore." Even my brother couldn't understand this. They had plenty of money and could do many things, so why keep handing money over to casinos? But later I realized we are often misled by famous successful people to think the wealthy will be like Steve Jobs, Jack Ma, or Warren Buffett. The reality is, some people with too much money simply don't know what to do with it. They have all the luxuries and enjoy every privilege life grants. They're content with what they've earned. Regarding charity, they say, "My money is mine, why should I donate?" So what do? Gamble. After all, they're not short of money. But beneath the facade of indulgence at the gambling table lies an empty soul. Eventually, Mr. C went into tens of billions of debt, while Mr. D remained immersed in gambling. What I've shared reflects the human nature regarding gambling. Next, I will talk about external factors influencing this. Anyone who's been to Macau knows casinos offer many enticing perks to lure you back repeatedly. You get membership cards to accumulate points, then redeem those points for phones, hotel rooms, and so on. VIP rooms usually have guides who escort high rollers into the casino. If you come to play, they handle everything: hotel, transport, even meals. If you bet big, they will even send a helicopter to pick you up. Sometimes they even shop for you more carefully than a servant. Perhaps many tourists don't know most VIP rooms are run by gambling brokers. Once they trust your ability, they're willing to lend you money from the casino. If you win, you can cash out immediately. If you lose, they give you time to repay. This has become a very developed business model. If you find table bets too low and want to increase your stake, you can join bigger bets like Dragon 2 or Dragon 3, sometimes staking tens of millions of dollars. If you love Baccarat but hesitate to go to Macau, no problem, there's phone betting service. You just install a Baccarat app, they notify you of each round's score, you just say how much to bet, and they follow your order. Speaking of which, do you wonder why so many people are crazy about Baccarat? Because it's fair? Wrong. Because it has a rule. This rule is the most sophisticated scam in the world, making every Baccarat player believe they can predict the outcome. Besides casinos, Macau is also famous for luxury clothing stores, jewelry shops, and nightclubs. Macau's nightclubs feature top beauties from 8 countries around the world. You can easily be swept away by the luxurious and frivolous atmosphere. Every shop urges you to open your wallet and spend. Casinos around are like ticking time bombs disguised as friendly ATMs calling you in. You might be surprised to find most restaurants near the casinos don't serve Portuguese or Hong Kong cuisine, but dishes from all over mainland China, Northeast, Sichuan, Hunan, Shanghai, and more. These familiar dishes are carefully served to Chinese guests. The biggest difference between Macau and Hong Kong is that Hong Kong people are somewhat arrogant toward Chinese mainland guests, but Macau people, when meeting mainlanders, bow and show utmost respect. Though inwardly they do not truly respect mainlanders. Whoever has the money is king. Honestly, I have never really liked Macau. It's a city that clearly shows the motto money above all else. Though more luxurious when compared to Shanghai, Macau still reflects the ultimate practicality of mankind. Even though my brother once worked in the gambling industry, I sincerely advise you to stay away from it. Gambling is toxic and can lead you to death before you realize it. Why do people have to lose everything before quitting? Even borrowing money to keep playing? Because of one simple reason. As long as you breathe, you try to recover. Most gamblers refuse to admit they are losers. Most people don't truly understand the gambling demons around us. We have never understood why our loved ones and close friends gradually turn into greedy, scary, and ugly people. A true gambling addict is not born that way. They were once ordinary people like all of us. Just because of a chance event, a bit of greed, they were gradually drawn into the abyss of gambling. Someone once described the operation of an underground casino somewhere. In reality, it wasn't a casino but a scam syndicate disguised as one. Each person there plays a different role, and the players lose money not because they gamble, but because they are deceived. So, does going to a legal casino like Macau mean you can avoid the tragedy of losing everything and having to borrow money to keep playing? The answer is definitely no. Gambling ultimately leads to ruin, broken homes, and total loss of money. Instead of saying lose some, it's more accurate to say lose all every time. Casinos in Las Vegas and Macau operate differently from illegal ones. They don't need to spend much time or effort to cheat a victim because they apply a big tree principle. Details of this will be explained later. The main issue is many people don't truly understand gambling or the psychology of addicts. Therefore, many cannot understand or help their loved ones escape gambling. Even pioneers in anti-gambling efforts can't help much because they don't really understand. Addicts all know it's not gambling but a scam. So does finding a legal and fair casino mean you can gamble safely? No. Let's see how a normal person, a familiar loved one, turns into a terrifying gambling addict. This process can be divided into 4 stages. The cautious stage, the downfall stage, the compensation stage, the total loss stage. At the first stage, when just entering a casino, everyone is very cautious. At first, they bet only very small amounts, mainly for entertainment. When winning a few million, they remind themselves to stop. At this point, most people can still control themselves. But just one lucky win of 100 million, and they start dreaming that every time they come to the casino, they can win 100 million and leave. Macau offers not only gambling but many other entertainments, but that is another matter. Back to the main issue, you will gradually fall into the cycle of chasing 100 million every visit. Throughout this, you will have some lucky moments sitting at the table and winning 100 million, then leave. You achieve that easily. But then there will be times you win only 50 to 80 million, which isn't enough. so you keep playing. Then you start losing. Since you have won before, you refuse to stop, determined to continue to recover losses. You win again, thus accumulating gambling experience. Even after losing 200 million, you try to recover. If you only win 100 million, you won't leave. You keep losing and recovering. During this process, two important changes happen. First, your bets grow larger because once you lose 200 million and want to recover, you must raise your stakes. Second, you gain experience winning 100, 200, even 300 million and recovering. But remember, this experience is only accumulating, waiting for the next time to destroy you. Perhaps by now you still don't fully understand the danger of these experiences. For example, someone playing in Macau once had only 10 million left. Feeling frustrated and angry to the point of madness, he decided to bet all his remaining money on pair in baccarat. Pair is a bet predicting two cards dealt to the banker or player will be a pair, with odds of 1 to 11. Of course, anyone who understands probability knows the chance is about 1/13. Miraculously, he hit the pair and turned the tide, winning big. Since then, whenever he had his last chips, he always bet on pair but never won again. Later, he calculated that he had wagered over 100 million on pairs compared to his winnings. Eventually, he lost everything. If he hadn't hit the pair the first time, he wouldn't have continued this bet. This is the danger of accumulating experience for a gambler. At the second stage, every gambler faces disappointment after their first big loss at a casino. That day he lost 300 million. Memories of previous experiences arose. Last time I lost 300 million but recovered, so I have no worries. I just need to wait for luck again. In baccarat, every outcome can be predicted, and luck is just programmed results, like betting on pairs giving a chance to reverse the situation. But this time he couldn't win no matter what, losing more and more, even exhausting his initial capital. This was the first time he felt a downturn in his gambling career, and marked an important turning point, making him a true gambler. This explains why people only leave the casino after losing everything. Humans don't want to lose, they believe they will win again. Those beliefs aren't strong enough to keep them playing, but memories of winning 3 billion or recovering 1 billion keep them hooked even when broke. Eventually, they have to bet because it's the last hope to recover all losses. At the third stage, they start compensating. Compensation means when everything collapses like the sky falling, you try to fix the damage you caused. After big losses, gamblers try every means to fill their financial holes. Humans are greedy animals. Money in their pockets that they have to give up causes great regret. In Macau, there's a story about a man who used 1 billion to win 30 billion. The next day, he gambled again and lost all 31 billion. He eventually committed suicide by jumping from a building because he felt he had lost everything. Now you understand, right? After a big collapse, gamblers only think about recovering losses. They keep promising themselves that once they recover, they will never gamble again. But gamblers break those promises countless times because they still lose heavily afterward. For example, after losing 20 billion, a sober gambler realizes he cannot recover it in one bet. So he plans to compensate in parts. If he can't recover at once, divide it into 10 times, recovering 2 billion each time. And so he is drawn into an endless gambling whirlpool. This story clearly shows the dependency psychology of gamblers and the immeasurable dangers of gambling. Gambling not only robs people of reason but plunges them into an abyss with no escape, destroys family happiness, and degrades society. Therefore, banning gambling is to protect people from falling into this trap and to maintain a sober and healthy life. Hopefully, through these real stories, many will recognize the harms of gambling and stay away from it. Gambling is not just a simple entertainment, but a bottomless trap. The stories of Ha Hong San and Lemin clearly show the unforeseeable consequences of gambling on individuals, families, and society. As Ha Hong San once said, "If you don't gamble, you win." This is a precious lesson drawn from his many years of experience. Those immersed in gambling often have a subjective belief in luck. They think they can win and recover what they lost. But the truth is, the deeper they go, the harder it is to escape. Banning gambling is not only to maintain social order, but also to protect the happiness and peace of every family. May you and I always remain sober, avoid gambling, and cherish a happy life.